As the world continues to follow the critical talks now underway in Baghdad over Iran's nuclear program, there's a new warning today from the UN's nuclear watchdog agency. A brand new report is expected to reveal Iran may be preparing to boost its nuclear output. Here to discuss the possible fallout of that, as well as the discussions that have happened over the last couple of days, we have General Jack Keane, a retired four-star general, former vice chief of staff to the Army, and a Fox News military analyst. Nice to see you, General Keane. And Mark Dubowitz is the executive director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And Mark, nice to have you as well as we take a more comprehensive look at our situation with Iran right now. And Mark, I'll start with you on this. Iran's been consistent about wanting to keep its nuclear program. We don't want them to have it. So is there any room to compromise between those two extreme positions?
Well, I don't think there's any room for the U.S. to compromise. I think there is no way Iran can develop nuclear weapons. A nuclear-armed, terror-sponsoring regime would be devastating for American national security. We have to stand firm at the negotiation table, and we have to demand that Iran stop enrichment, stop weaponization, and verifiably and comprehensively suspend all its nuclear weapons activities.
And General Keane, they said they will not do this. So now what?
Well, I doubt it. I mean, the Iranians, why do they want a nuclear weapon? It's simply this, to guarantee the preservation of the regime and also to be able to help them with the regional hegemony which they desire. So they've been negotiating with us on and off for 10 years, and the nuclear program moves forward. They've watched the United States and others negotiate with North Korea right into a nuclear weapons program in North Korea. So they think negotiations are a successful ploy on their part to actually getting a nuclear weapon.
Do you think, General Keane, we are genuinely in these negotiations to get a compromise, or do you think there's another strategy, perhaps, buying ourselves some more time, or just using it as a cover for another agenda, whatever that might be? I mean, what do you really think our genuine goal is here with the negotiations?
I think the elephant in the room is the potential Israeli attack, and we're doing everything we can to stall that from happening. So we want to get some concessions out of the Iranians to gain some leverage over the Israelis about not doing that attack. The irony of this is, I don't think the Iranians fear an Israeli attack. I don't think they believe the Israelis have sufficient capability to stop their program. So in a sense, we fear that Israeli attack much more than the Iranians do.
Mark, do you agree with that?
Well, Jenna, I do. I mean, I think that the Iranians don't fear an Israeli attack, and they don't fear a U.S. attack. And I think our agenda, the Obama administration's agenda in Baghdad, is to get a deal, to get any deal that gets Iran off the front pages before the election and begins to kick the ball down the field. I think the Iranians, to mix metaphors, are rope-a-doping us. I think they understand that they can continue to move the goalposts on us, and we will agree to really any deal. I think we've got to continue to intensify sanctions, and we've got to cripple the Iranian economy, and we've got to put the Iranians to a fundamental choice between the survival of their regime and a nuclear bomb.
Let me ask you a little bit more about the sanctions, Mark, because some would argue that the sanctions hurt the people. They hurt the middle class. They hurt the lower class. They don't actually hurt the government. The government has a lot of guys that are really protected and have a great amount of resources. So what are we truly accomplishing with those sanctions? Are they appropriately pressuring the government right now, or is there something else that we should be considering?
Well, I think they are pressuring the government. I mean, I think the regime's oil wealth is threatened in a way that it hasn't been since the Iran-Iraq war. It's the fundamental lifeblood of the regime. It's what sustains their brutality, their nuclear weapons program, and their regional hegemony. I think by attacking their oil wealth, we are attacking the regime. Now, the people will suffer, but interestingly, there hasn't been a rally around the flag. They're blaming the regime. They're not blaming the Americans.
Interesting. It's hard to know what's going on inside that country, General Keane, because we simply just can't get a lot of great information out of it. And I'm just wondering, General Keane, how you feel about this, whether or not we get a deal. Let's say there is some sort of agreement that's made. Is America any less under threat from Iran? Is there any change to our national security if we do in fact get a deal and there is some sort of agreement that's made?
Well, look, the tragedy of this is the Iranians declared us as their strategic enemy in 1980, and they've been killing us for 32 plus years. Most recently, they were willing to conduct an attack inside Washington against the Saudi Arabian ambassador. They killed 1,500 to 2,000 Americans in Iraq, and years before that they've been killing us. So their strategy to push the United States out of the region so they can achieve their regional goals, which is hegemony, remain regardless of this nuclear program. The nuclear program guarantees the existence of the regime. Until we bring the regime to economic collapse, and the regime is being threatened by that economic collapse, there's no rationale for them to give up the pursuit of the nuclear weapon.
General Keane and Mark Dubowitz, thank you both very much for joining us. It's a big topic, and we look forward to having you both back. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jenna.